The Story of Anansi and Common Sense. Now, when it came to spiders, Anansi was way at the top of the food chain. I mean, he could climb taller, he could climb faster than any other spider in the whole wide world. But like many overachievers and many type A personality people, Anansi began to get bored and wanted to expand his horizons. So he thought he might try his hand at other mediums, such as music. He thought maybe he could break into the music business and break a few musical recording records. Well, after his first album, the only thing he broke was a lot of windows because of the horrific sounds coming out of his mouth. So he thought maybe I'll try another medium. Maybe I could be the next Van Gogh, Picasso, Andy Warhol even. But after his first show, it was clear that it was a disaster waiting to happen after people saw his artwork. So he began to think again and again and again and see what he could possibly do to expand his horizons further. And then it came to him. What's the one thing that people need that they don't always use? Something my nephew would call CS, or common sense. Things like, if you're going outside in the rain and you don't want to get wet, take an umbrella or get in a rain jacket, or simply stay inside. Or if you're going to cross a river and go on the back of Bruh Gator, it's best not to talk about his bumpy ridges on his back until you're safe on the other side and he's out of ear and eyesight. So Anansi figured if he went around the whole world and collected all the knowledge, the wisdom, common sense, and a story or two along the way to go with them, people would pay him anything to get that kind of information because it indeed was a demand that he'd be able to supply. So Anansi got himself a humongous gourd, and he put that gourd on his hat and started in his home country of Ghana, collecting knowledge, wisdom, sayings, and stories as he made his way around the continent to other African countries such as Nigeria, Kenya, South Africa, even the island nation of Madagascar. He collected knowledge and wisdom there too. Then he went back to the continent of Africa, went all the way up north, headed over into the Middle East and Europe, over to Asia, Southeast Asia, before coming to the Hawaiian Islands where he thought he would take a break. I mean, after all, at this point, his gourd was about 3/4 full of knowledge. And what better place to take a break and a vacay than the Hawaiian Islands, where he stretched out on Waikiki Beach, stretching all 8 of those legs, saying, "Ah, this is the life. I could spin webs here forever." But realizing he still had room in his gourd for more knowledge and common sense, he ended his vacation, hopped back in the Pacific Ocean, kerplash, and started swimming, making his way to the good old U.S. of A. He landed in California, headed up the coast to Oregon, Washington, Canada, all the way over to Alaska, gathering knowledge, wisdom, and common sense along the way before making a diagonal back down deep into the heart of the Lone Star State, where he caught a Texas tornado that twisted him up and around Tornado Alley all the way up to the Great Lakes. It was there he collected even more knowledge and wisdom and stories, making his rounds before he got in the boat and headed back down the M-I, cricket letter, I, cricket letter, I, humpback, I, till he landed in the Magnolia State of Mississippi. He headed east into Roll Tide, Alabama, before landing in the Peach State, where he took yet another break. You see, in the Peach State, he had a couple of relatives there. One of them was his Aunt Nancy, where he stopped by to have a bit of a chat and chew with her, if you will. And she told him some knowledge, some wisdom, some old wives' tale that he could continue to stuff into that gourd of his. And she also told him about a relative he had, a relative who was, born in Edenton, Georgia, but now lived in Atlanta, Georgia, at a place called the Wren's Nest. She said, yeah, You should go by the Wren's Nest. You've got a relative there. His name is Bruh Rabbit. He's got all kinds of tales and all kinds of stories, but be careful. He might trick you out of your gourd if you're not sharp. So Anansi went over to the Wren's Nest, had another chat and chew with his cousin Bruh Rabbit, got some stories, got some wisdom, and when it was all filled up to the top, he took a cork and bottled it up. He made his way to the coast of Savannah, Georgia, hopped in the Atlantic, kerplash, and started swimming all the way back to his homeland of Ghana, West Africa. Now, he had his gourd full of knowledge, wisdom, stories, and common sense, but he didn't know where he was going to put it to hide. He thought about digging a hole in the ground, dropping the gourd in and covering it back up and putting an X on the spot, but realizing that might be too obvious of a place for people to find it. So he decided on somewhere else he might put it, which was, hey, I can put it, he said, in the back of a cave, all the way in the back of a cave, and I'll roll a huge boulder in front of it. But then he thought about if he could roll a huge boulder in front of it, there could be larger animals like a bear or a rhino or an elephant that could move it out of the way and get to his common sense. So he continued thinking and thinking and thinking until he says, wait a minute, I forgot who I am. I'm the great Anansi, the best web spinning, the best climbing, the fastest climbing spider in the whole wide world. If I put my gourd of knowledge at the top of the tallest tree, I know no one will ever get to it except me. So Anansi started looking around for trees to put his gourd of knowledge. He saw a tree this size. That wasn't tall enough. He saw a tree that size. That wasn't tall enough. He saw a tree this size. That wasn't tall enough. He even saw a tree that size. It wasn't tall enough either. But then he hit the jackpot. He saw a tree amongst trees, a giant amongst giants, the mighty baobab tree, also known as the upside down tree. Because of the way its branches shoot out of the ground, they look like roots. A tree so tall, so mighty, so gigantic that it stretches up into the sky, it reaches through the clouds and ascends into the heavens where the stars and planets roam. Anansi says, that's the tree. I'm putting my gourd up to the top of that tree. So he got that gourd. He put it on his belly like this, paloom boom, spun a web, and tied it behind his back. And then Anansi stretched out all 8 legs, bing, 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 and proceeded to climb up that tree. And as he did, to motivate himself, he said the following words. And you can say them with me. I can do it. I know I can. This is easy. I can do it. I know I can. This is easy. Well, it wasn't quite as easy as he thought. You see, because that gourd was protruding so much in front of him, he could barely get a grip on the tree. And he would go up a little ways and he'd fall back down. He'd go up a little ways and he'd fall back down. He'd go up a little ways and he'd fall back down. And he'd go up and down and up and down and up and down, despite saying, I can do it. I know I can. This is easy. I can do it. I know I can. This is easy. Well, he was standing there midday, heaving and breathing and barely holding on to the tree. When down below, there was a young boy walking by, collecting cowrie shells. Oh, look at this one. Oh, look at that one. Oh, look at this one. Oh, look at that one. And he saw Anansi hanging on to the tree, trying to go up and coming down and going up and coming down and going up and coming down. And he says, hey, Anansi, what are you doing? Anansi was frustrated and says, can't you see I'm busy? I'm trying to get my gourd to the top of this tree, and you're disturbing me. Leave me alone. Well, the young boy says, well, hey, I was just going to give you a little advice and say, wouldn't common sense tell you to put something like that on your back so you could climb up a whole lot quicker, faster, and easier? Anansi became furious, for now was this young boy who had shared this little bit of wisdom, this little bit of common sense that in all Anansi's efforts around the world, he'd failed to collect himself. He was so mad, in fact, that he ripped that gourd from his belly, held it up high, and hurled it to the ground. It hit the ground and popped wide open. And that's when a northwest wind came along and blew the knowledge, the wisdom, the common sense. Oh, and this story back to the many parts around the world, so that each and every one of us got a little bit of it, but no one, absolutely no one, got all of it, as our friend Anansi was trying to do. And that's the end of that. Thank you.